Hello, and welcome to episode 231 of The Joy of Coding. Hello, my name's Mike Conley. It's so good to have you here. Gonna be hacking on some Firefox stuff today. I hope you're doing well. I hope you're whatever's going on, you're doing well. It's November 4th. Let's get into it. No delay. Let's share my screen. So here's my screen. Surprise, surprise, if you're watching this on Air Mozilla, this actually works now. I just tested, and this is the first time ever this stream has worked on the new Air Mozilla. So thank you so much to Andy, thank you so much to Panopto and all the people who've helped out. We have the stream working on Air Mozilla 3, so woo! I wish there was like a cheering soundboard effect. Like, I should have cheering in here, but instead I'll do this one. Oh yeah. That's pretty good. Oh yeah. So yeah, we've got we're streaming across YouTube, Twitch, and Air Mozilla, and hopefully that's working out for you. So a reminder: if this is your first time seeing the stream, no plan survives breakfast. I don't know really what's going to go on today. I know what I want to work on, but I don't know how it's going to go. And we might get stuck, we might get sidelined, we might get some stuff done. Who knows? But even though I have a sense of what I want to work on, it might not go well. And that's okay. That's part of this. It's part of the journey. We're capturing software development, real software development in the raw. And in real software development, things go wrong and people get stuck. So that's what's going on. The second thing is that the agenda that we're looking at is something that you have access to. If you're watching this on the new Air Mozilla, I actually don't know how to edit the like where I put the links. So I have a feeling it's like old links over there, and I'm gonna have to figure that out. But in the meantime, check out, there's a YouTube playlist as well, and the YouTube playlist will have a link to this video, and on YouTube, there is a link to this agenda. It's in the video description, and on Twitch, I'm about to link to the agenda in the Twitch chat. Booyah. Right, the episode guide. There is an episode guide. You should check it out. I think I'm actually going to skip going into the episode guide today, though, because I really want to get into the thing that I'm working on. First of all, I do want to remind you that, yeah, this is me streaming from home. This is the first time I've been cross-streaming to the 3 endpoints, YouTube, Twitch, and Air Mozilla, and I'm on my home Wi-Fi, and things could go wrong at random, so just bear with me. If the stream cuts out, just hang in there and we'll figure it out. And there is a Twitch chat that I am idling in. There's also a live coding Matrix chat room on the Mozilla Matrix chat instance. And if you're not sure what that is, there's documentation down here in the agenda on how to join up. I'm idling in there, so if things go wrong, maybe you can't hear me, or maybe the stream cuts out, you can let me know in either of those two places. And I'm more or less monitoring them. All right. Well, without further ado, what are we working on today? Today, I want to actually investigate a regression. The regression has to do with the AS router stuff that recently landed that allowed the About Home startup cache that we've been working on for a while together, off and on. The About Home startup cache. If you're not already familiar with it, I have a blog post that details how it works, what it is, what the advantage is, and that it like increases our startup speed significantly to like painting the About Home page. Like, there it is. And this one is without, and it's a lot slower. And if you're not sure like how it works, or you want to know more, I will link to my blog post, the About Home startup cache. And one of the dependencies for making that enabled, because it's enabled right now in Nightly, you may or may not have, you may or may not be affected by it. Nightly is kind of a weird case because it updates so frequently, and the cache doesn't apply whenever you rev the build ID, which is almost every time that, like, that will be every time that Nightly updates. So any of your like restarts that occur because Nightly updated, the cache will actually get thrown away. I'm expecting that this will have more of an impact on beta and release, where the releases are less frequent and people are shutting down and starting up their browser, without having rev the build ID. And if you're curious about how it works, read this document. Okay. So one of the dependencies for the About Home startup cache was a refactoring of how we show snippets. And that's, it's actually very complicated. If you're not sure what a snippet is, it's like this little chunk of information down here at the bottom of the window. It's like, messages from us. So this is how we let you know maybe that it's here's an interesting tidbit on how you can protect your privacy, or these are some pocket stories about misinformation that we think the foundation wants you to know about, or this is here's some dev tips, like here, go to the Mozilla Hacks blog. By the way, did you know that MDN is a wiki and you can edit it too? Like stuff like that will show up inside of the snippets here down at the bottom. And so it's pretty important. And we show different snippets depending on, the tab that's open. And I'm going to show you the bug right now that we're trying to fix. So like most things in Firefox, like many things in Firefox, the snippets are configurable. So you can actually turn this off. If you don't want to hear from us, you can turn them off. And the way you do that is by going to this gear button to the top right and then just turning off the snippets. You can just shut those off. Now here's the bug. I've turned off the snippets. I'm going to hit the plus button to open a new tab. And guess what? There's a snippet here. There's not snippets on subsequent tabs. They're turned off. That's no problem. But the first tab that you open after you disable snippets still has the snippets. And I'm trying to figure out why. Here's the information I do have. So for context, one of the optimizations we do, one of the perceived performance optimizations that we do is after you open up a new tab, we actually load another new tab in the background. We kind of like put one in the chamber so that the next time you open up a new tab, there's one ready to go. We don't have to load it. It's like ready to go. And if you'll notice, like I've turned on the snippets again, and like there's no snippet down here, and it's because the preloaded tab didn't get updated. That tab that's in the chamber doesn't hear about the fact that snippets are now available again. And so subsequent new tabs that load and are in the chamber do get updated, and that's what I want to look at. And I think it's more important to hide the snippet. That's because like the default is to show the snippets, and we want users to like when they turn something off, it needs to be off. And so we really don't want to have like the first tab that they open after they disable snippets to like show one, because that's going to frustrate them and it's going to make them doubt that they've like toggled something, and it will actually feel pretty broken. So I want to figure out what's going on there. We've identified the regressor. It is the AS router stuff that manages the snippets, the refactor that took place, and I want to start investigating that. There's some traffic inside of the Twitch chat. Let me just quickly go over it. Apparently, packed SIMD was finally fixed in Mozilla Central. I'm not sure what that is. I have a feeling that's going to be something related to JavaScript. But like Akris is happy about that. So now it's again possible to build Firefox with Rust nightly and support for SIMD. Yeah, great. MDN's a wiki, but not for long. Oh, that's right. MDN is a wiki, but not for long. It will still be editable by users, but you'll have to send pull requests. I heard recently that they're going to move the way that they're going to change the way they host MDN. So if you use MDN, which you should, because it's a pretty it's the authoritative source for information about the web platform. All the browser engines collaborate on it. It's like the place to go. If you want to know like some JavaScript API or how the web layer works, you should check out the MDN, and that's developer.mozilla.org. And this is actually a wiki right now, but they're planning on moving it to GitHub so that you send pull requests instead of editing a wiki. And I don't believe the appearance will change. Like reading this blog, like they're changing how it all works so that it's hosted on GitHub and that it will deploy almost like it's like a static website. That's probably actually good for the speed of the site. Static websites tend to require less like time and energy and CPU time to like put together, because you're not dynamically generating something. You like build it, you build the website, and then it's just statically served up to you, the clients. So there might be performance benefits, but I think there's reasoning behind it. I think it's because they also expect most people who are interested in contributing to MDN will be familiar with the GitHub pull request model. And, there are a bunch of improvements that are listed here. If you want to read it, check out this link. Okay, let's move on. I have identified what I think to be the salient part. So I've got a build here actually with the AS router stuff disabled. So this is with this patch does this build of Firefox that we're looking at right now doesn't have the bug, or at least it doesn't have the bug where if you disable snippets, the first tab shows one. Like, it's properly disabling them. And I've started to track down where the messages, like how the messages work in order to disable the snippets on that preloaded background tab. Like right now, I am in the process of handling one such message. That message is clear provider, and I have a feeling this is like this is the thing that we need to figure out how to work with in the new AS router refactor. Like, is this message being sent, or is a similar message being sent? And if it is, then why isn't it being handled? Or is it being handled and we're just like not handling it properly? These are the things I want to find out. So clear provider, let's find out more about clear provider. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go to SearchFox, and I want to understand more about the old way the code worked. And one way to do that is to look at not Mozilla Central, but Mozilla Beta, which doesn't have, right now, it doesn't have the AS router refactor. So this is a snapshot of the Central repository after it merged to Beta about 2.5 weeks ago, about 2 weeks ago. And it hasn't changed. It doesn't have the AS router refactor. So that means we can look up, we can look up this message, clear provider. We can see, that it's sent here whenever you update the message providers, and that it's handled in these two cases, in this JSX file, which is ultimately compiled into this bundle. Okay, that's good. Now, if we go and look at SearchFox and look at Mozilla Central, which is the default repository that SearchFox looks at, and I look at clear provider, we will find probably, the message isn't there. And that might not be a bad thing. Maybe just we change the message logistics. So let's take a quick peek right now at how it used to work. So update message providers was called. Let's find out how that works. We're going to attach a breakpoint. I'm going to go ahead and play here and disable the breakpoint. And we're going to put the snippets back. I've got a breakpoint over here as well that I'm just going to... Oh, I didn't hit it. Okay. So we're in the state where, so there is actually a pre-existing bug. It's like the opposite bug in the before version of before the AS router refactor occurs. Like when you turn on snippets, the first new tab doesn't have a snippet, which I think is kind of interesting. But that's less, I think, impactful than the user disabling snippets and then seeing that they don't have one there. That to me is more annoying from a user perspective. If you turn something off, you expect it to be off, unless it requires a restart. But this shouldn't require a restart. Okay, so let's figure out where that clear message, clear provider, how we get here. This is the only place that sends that message. So now I'm going to click on this snippets thing, and I've hit my breakpoint, and let's take a look at our stack. So we observe that the pref has changed, the snippets pref has changed, and then what we do is we call update message providers, and update message providers does the job of sending this clear provider message. Great, that makes sense to me. It's the AS router stuff is complex, but I'm starting to get my head wrapped around how it works. Now let's look at how it currently works with the AS router refactor. I'll note that the refactor didn't actually make things less complex. Like, sometimes a refactor will make things less complex, but in this case, the AS router refactor switched the messaging infrastructure that we use for snippets and like all the AS router stuff so that it doesn't use what's called the message manager anymore. It uses something called the JS window actors, which is important for fission because we're going to eventually get rid of the message manager. But it was needed for the about home startup cache. Otherwise, we wouldn't get snippets in the initial about home document. Okay, so let's see. On pref change is still it still exists here. The law of this code hasn't changed. And then there's update message providers is still called right here. So let's take a look at how it works. So there's this big like functional thing where we like process a bunch of providers and filter some stuff out. I don't believe that has changed recently. Oh, I'm wrong. This was changed recently by the AS Router refactor. So we might want to look at that. Clear old messages. So instead of, so notice that we're pushing the invalid messages on this list. Is this supposed to return, fetch and decode message provider and update the message providers? And then this thing ultimately like resolves with the list of invalid messages, I guess. Which, I don't know why that's useful, but is that the way it used to work? This is the old version. Return. Weirdly, no. It's not clear to me why they did that, except that like anything that, oh, invalid messages. Okay, so they wanted to use the invalid messages here, and then clear child messages, invalid messages. And that's, what's that going to do? Clear messages, and it passes a bunch of IDs. And what did the old one do? It would like, it would send this clear provider message. And that's gone now. So let's take a look at what exists in its place. Like, was clear provider something that just got completely wiped out? So luckily I have the patch here. This is the patch that yeah, it looks like clear provider was just straight removed. So part of, I think what we might want to do here is just put it back. Message all, basically message everyone and say like, hey, we've updated our providers, clear them. Clear provider, if provider includes, then send async message. And how did update message providers change in this patch? Let's just, whoopsie daisy. Let's take a quick peek. So there's some promisifying things. But most of the logic didn't change except for promisifying things and making things async because some other things became async. Okay. And then the returning of invalid messages. And then the removing of this clear provider. So that's what I think we want to put back. Pref provider. Clear old messages. Now, is that what this is supposed to do? Like this part, this returning of invalid messages. We've got this function here that gets the invalid messages, and then there's a method clear child messages. Was that supposed to do this work of clearing the child messages? Clear child messages. Where's clear child messages? Oh, then you message everybody and say you clear messages. Oh, that's interesting. There might be some confusion here because the ID of what's being cleared isn't a message ID. It's a provider. I wonder if that's the confusion. That this code erroneously assumed that what was being cleared was messages. Fetch and decode the message provider and update the message providers. Clear child messages. Like maybe this should be clear. Oh, where's invalid messages? If not, is match. So this uses invalid messages. This one we probably still want to use. Okay, I think I see the bug. I think there was an assumption made that like both of these are going to compute messages that are going to be they're both going to compute messages that are going to be cleared, individual messages. But this one actually takes out an entire provider. And the refactor, I think, mistakenly set it so that both clear individual messages. And so I have a feeling what's happening, and I'm going to try and prove this out. So let me shut down this build. Let me update to tip the most recent stuff. Update to central. Sorry, Sorry, am I dropping frames? I'm noticing some feedback in the Twitch chat about dropped frames. I've dropped about 113 frames according to OBS. Am I still dropping frames? Am I still dropping frames here? Hopefully not. Could be Twitch as well. Yeah, could be. If anyone is watching on YouTube, any issues, let me know. Let me know. Oh, the French. Okay, well, while we're waiting for that to build, let's take a quick peek at asrouter.jsm. We're gonna, whoops, spelled that wrong. This is where I want to set my my breakpoint, because I want to actually look at this invalid messages array when we disable the snippets. If my theory is correct, what we're going to see is a provider ID being passed in this array rather than a message ID, and that is going to be like that's the smoking gun, effectively, to use a tired metaphor. Okay. So we have we're in the state that we want to be in. I am now going to, where are we? I'm going to go here, and now I will go here, and I will disable snippets. We hit our breakpoint. Okay. And we enter this branch, and we're going to collect these invalid messages. Okay, let's take a look at what invalid messages are. Yeah, it's an array of strings of IDs of providers, and in this case, the provider is the snippets provider, and that's not a message. So that's the problem. That is the problem. This is returning, you know, this is returning the wrong stuff, effectively. So good. I think we have a pathway to fixing this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write up my findings in the bug, and I don't think I've actually assigned the bug to myself yet. So, or if I haven't added a note. So let's start with that. No, I did. I added a note. So I can start by putting my findings in this note. The problem is that problem is here. This code is expecting that update message providers returns an array of message IDs. However, it actually returns an array of provider IDs that have been disabled. This ultimately gets sent to the child with clear messages, the clear messages message, but that ID being for a provider and not a message is then ignored. Okay. So let me actually paste that in the bug as well. How's my bandwidth? Am I still? I haven't dropped any frames since. You folks on Twitch, is it okay? Are we okay? Smurf D, let me know. Ocris, how we doing? Are we buffering? We are all right, says Smurf D. Looks good here, says Danny Colon. Amazing.
Okie dokie.
Let's play another sound.
That's right.
Oh man, remember that? Remember Untitled Goose Game? Took the world by storm. And as well as
How long have we been on this rock? 5 weeks? 2 days? Help me to recollect. Watch you spill your beans.
so good. All right, let's fix this bug. And then I think we got to figure out how we can. We're gonna probably have to update tests as well. So this is the problem. Unit tests are great, except that sometimes they will be what they're testing was a bad assumption. So by fixing this, I'm probably going to end up breaking some unit tests, which assumed that this function would return the invalid messages or something along those lines. All right. So let's take a look here. Let's do clear. You know what? I still like this pattern of returning the. Do I like this pattern of clearing the providers? Update message providers and update the message providers. I don't like the idea that the caller is then responsible for clearing the message providers. And then how does this work? We're gonna have to wire in like a cleared providers function. That's going to be annoying. I guess that will make it easier to test. All right. So this is what I think we're going to have to do. I'm going to say this, update message providers. Well, quickly, are there a bunch of tests that are testing this? Yeah, but we're testing the return value. No, doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like it, so I think we're gonna be okay. So disabled providers, clear old messages and providers, invalid providers. And then we're going to say this dot clear child providers, invalid providers. So clear child messages is this thing. So we're going to have to update. This is going to break a bunch of stuff. I think this changing this. Child providers, use this dot to wait for init func clear child providers. And then when we uninit, and we construct. Okay. So now we need to pass in that as we have to pass that in. Test.js. Clear child messages. I have to update this thing as like a stub. It just returns. It, like, I don't think it does anything. I think it's just a dot stub. Can you just do that? Yeah. Stub out that thing because it doesn't resolve child providers. And then what we'll do is child messages. Init params, clear child provider. Okay, that works. And now we have to find the place where ASRouter is initted for real. ASRouter, new tab hook. Yeah, here we go. Clear child messages. Wait, what? Dot init. Here. Oh, that's nice. It's like a key. I didn't realize this, but it's a key value object. That's nice. So clear child providers, this dot clear child providers. And how does this work? Clear child messages equals this stuff. I'm basically going to copy this. Clear child providers. If there's a new tab message handler. Otherwise, clear child providers, new tab message handler. Now, where is this stuff coming from? Tab message handler. And we're gonna have to update our documentation to be like clear child providers, clears child providers, It returns a promise? Seriously? Why would it return a promise? Returns immediately. Why would we make that different? That might burn us. Why would it? Okay. Maybe we're going to have to end up making it return a promise for reasons unknown. Yeah, ASReader parent. IDs. Message all. Clear providers. Is message all return a promise? I guess it returns a promise when all of them are messaged. I see. That's the reason why we return a promise. We wait until everyone's heard about it. Okay, fine. Promise it is. And returns promise. Except that this is synchronous. Sending all these async messages is not something that returns a promise. This is synchronous. All right, I'm going to file a follow-up bug for that. To-dos. Simplify ASRouter tabs. Message all, since it doesn't need to return a promise. This means clear child and update admin state doesn't need to return a promise. Okay, well, that's beside the point for now. I don't want to get distracted. I'm gonna have to update this test as well. Okay. So now clear child providers is this thing that we can call. It's going to go through ASRouter parent. It's going to send clear providers to everybody, which is good. And now we need to go to the child side. And we're going to say case clear providers, intentional fall through. And then we need something that will listen to this. Clear providers. So what before was listening to this stuff? In Mozilla Beta, we sent this message, clear provider. So who was listening? ASRouter content. Got it. This is what we want to do. So in ASRouter content, clear message. Case clear messages. Case clear providers. Data for each ID this dot clear provider ID. Brick. We're gonna just do the same thing. Clear provider. And then it's the if state message provider equals ID. They all do the triple equals here. Then we update our state to be nothing. And that, I think, will do all the wiring. I think that will work. Let's try it out. So I have one of the things I need to do is I need to mock. No, what is it? Actually, there's a way you can do this from here. Mock npm bundle prefix browser components new tab. npm run bundle. That's gonna do all the like Redux React stuff. Smurfd asks to please add the note and the bug to the agenda. Good call. So here's the note. Let's actually get the bug in here first. Good call, though. Good call, Smurfd. I like the way you think. Keeping me on my toes. Keeping me honest. So here's what here's what we're working on today. Notes. Booyah. Save. All right. So we built that stuff up. Let's run mock build faster. I must say, part of the reason why this is so complicated, I think, is because they tried to make AS router, like, and to their credit, they tried to make it really unit testable, but that meant that it has to, like, all these bits and pieces come apart and they have to be, like, composed together, which is, in general, it's a good idea, but it can become, like, really complicated. So we turned it on, we didn't see anything. But that was the behavior we had before. Let's open it up. Interesting. Not seeing any snippets. Where are my snippets at? Let's restart the browser. I'm noticing all these errors too. Any... AS router was destroyed before new tab message request was resolved. What's going on? Okay. Okay. So we're gonna call our function invalid providers. Oh, is empty. Prev provider. We had no providers. Interesting. Let's restart the browser and start over. Something's up. There's a syntax error. Where are you seeing a syntax error, Akris? Syntax error. This is in parser worker somewhere in our dev tools. There's a console error with an empty object. Really unhelpful there. It's hard to tell which ones of these might be related. asrouter.state.providers. We're going to see what happens now if I do this. So this .state.providers. We have no providers. So that's why. Why don't we have any providers? Did load local providers fail? Let's undo our change for a sec and see if everything goes back to the way it was. So I'm going to shelve all this stuff. So many bits that need changing. Okay, shelve all that. Yeah, there's an advantage to having things decoupled so much like this, but because it gets so abstract, it makes an outsider like myself, you know, we get a little lost. These error messages that come from DevTools, can they affect the variables in the console? Unlikely, because I suspect that a lot of those errors are coming from the client code. I could be wrong. It's possible. It's actually, I think it is possible that it could affect. You know, there's our snippet. It's possible that it could affect the variables, but in my experience, it's unlikely. Okay, so we've got our snippet showing up. So what of our changes broke things? What of our changes broke things? I'm going to guess it's something related to our changes in asrouter.jsm, this you know, update. Sorry, unshelve. Let's unshelve those changes. And no errors, you noticed. Yeah, so I wonder if they're all related. Like, maybe I've just blown something up. What could it be? Like the syntax error is missing. Yeah, so maybe I've got a syntax error that's somehow propagating. What could it be? If you see a syntax error, let me know. Init function. Well, let's try this. Let's look at the initialization of ASRouter. Where we say clear child providers. No. In the init function. I didn't hit it, but I have a feeling asrouter is still init. It's just probably I got the debugger up too late. But we can check down here. Yes. Was it this dot clear message clear this? What is this? Clear child providers. To wait for init function. This dot wait for initialized. Ah, initializing is still pending. AS router initializing is still pending. That's the problem. We have failed to complete initializing. Why not? Finish initializing is here. So something in all of this has failed. So my instinct on waiting, on like debugging this part, I think was right. Unfortunately, our debugger itself is screwing with us here. So let's start printf debugging. So initting AS router. Stub functions set up done. Setup done. Hubs initted. Storage accessed. State set. Message providers updated. Messages from all providers loaded. Cache cleaned. Finishing initialization. I wonder if it's this. You know, this is what I changed. Clearing child providers. Okay, done. Setting state. Okay, let us now build that. There are not too many occurrences of new tab message request. Yeah, they've been removed from... new tab message request was removed as part of the refactor. Because we don't use that messaging mechanism anymore. Initting AS router. Hubs init. Storage access. Clearing child providers. Aha! Look at this. It's like multiple attempts to initialize AS router. That's interesting. Clearing child providers, clearing child providers. So we never resolve. That's the problem. Clear child providers. Messaging all clear providers. Return that. I got a feeling we're going to solve this. I got a feeling we're getting close, people. Not to jinx us, but I think we're going to figure this out. Whoopsies. That looks like my problem. Line 34. Whoops. Forgot a brace. Forgot a comma, actually. Interestingly, we never enter here. So we're calling some other clear child providers. Where would that be? Constructor. Well, initialization never completed. So okay, I know what's going wrong. I know what's going wrong. So clear child providers is dependent on initialization being done. There's a circular dependency here. We're stuck because clear child providers doesn't get defined until initialization is complete, but clearing the child providers occurs as part of the initialization setup. And we block initialization until this is resolved. So maybe we shouldn't. Well, I mean, so here's one solution: don't block on it. And that should allow everything to reinitialize, like complete initializing. But this is kind of a mess. I wonder if the original pattern of returning. Oh, illegal character on line 654. What? Did I? Whoa, whoops, copyright symbol. That's not right. Okay, so we have our snippet showing up. And now I should be able to disable the snippet. Func is not a function. Line 876. Func was not a function. Clear child providers. Am I forgetting one of the places where clear child messages has to be defined? New tab hook. Parent, router, new tab hook. That's it. Parent, router, new tab hook. Oh, right. I see why that's going to fail. Clear child providers. Okay, I've made I made a decision. What we're going to do is we're going to go back to returning the invalid providers as a return value to this function. So the way we did that was like this. And then we're going to have the preference update thing here. Let invalid providers equal if invalid providers dot length, then we're going to clear them. This is all quite complex. Feels brittle too. I'm not super happy. Like, I know that they've tried to like factor out all the state into this like one object, but it just, all the stuff being sent around just kind of, it worries me. Okay, re-enable snippets. There are the snippets. Okay, so there's your snippet, disable. So that, what is going on here? Func is not a function, then what is it? Let's find out. This dot clear child providers. So we're going to enter this function func. We don't know what func is. Okay, let's continue. We need to figure out what's going wrong here, because it seems like child providers is not a function. We should also get the stack. So it's undefined, and the stack is so that's good. That explains the problem. AS router new tab hook 45. 45. Oh, missing a D. Was missing a D. That's my problem. Was missing a D. Thank you, dynamically, or thank you, weakly typed. I don't know. I feel like that's the sort of thing that a strongly typed language that like does arguments type checking and stuff would have caught. Oh well. Oh well. Anyways, let's take a look. I was missing a D. Missing a D. I've been listening to a lot of Alice in Chains. I don't know if you can tell. I wear plaid because I like grunge so much, and one of the bands I never really got into when I was younger was called Alice in Chains. Now I'm suddenly really into them. Wild. So that didn't work. There's our snippet. It just took a little while. Okay, got our snippet. Now disable. All right, it's gone. Now re-enable. And it's back, but after one. But I think that was the bug before. That was a pre-existing bug. So we have our snippet, disable, it's gone. Re-enable. Okay. That is a pre-existing bug. I think we are rewrite every time in Rust. Yes, right? Like, or use Rust and then compile down to WASM, or I don't know. Rust. Get that strong type language. Do it. Child providers. So dump. We're gonna do this. Okay. All of our dump statements are gone, I think. We can put this back the way it was. Okay. So, I think we've got a working patch. Isn't that kind of on the way, adding Rust wherever possible? Yeah, I mean, maybe. It'd be really... I think it would be interesting to try and rewrite some of the front-end components using Rust to get that kind of, like, type checking. Part of the problem is that then you lose some of the advantage of artifact builds. Artifact builds are really fast. You know, all you have to do is repackage the JavaScript. You know, if you add a compile step there, it slows everything down. But the trade there is that, oh, well, now we get type checking. This is a trade. Development speed. I mean, that's always the problem, right? I think that's like ultimately the trade-off sometimes between these like interpreters that don't do strict typing or strong typing, and then compiled languages that do more strongly typed stuff. There might be like a middle ground where you use like a preprocessor or something. There's like TypeScript or Flow or whatever to try and like get some checking. Yeah, TypeScript support type checking for arguments. It does, and you know, I think we've experimented with it in other parts of the code base. Yeah, okay. I feel pretty good about that. Let's see what tests are broken. I expect many, but we'll see. What's the npm run bundle? We'll just do that real quick. And then we'll run our tests and see what exploded. Thunderbird devs are considering using TypeScript directly in their JS code. Interesting. You know, maybe maybe we can draft off some of their research. Like, I'd be interested in seeing how it goes for them, because maybe we can, you know, work together, introduce some of that into the front end of Firefox as well. It honestly couldn't hurt. I can definitely recall times when, you know, things like, whoops, passed in undefined when we didn't expect to. What? Coverage fell below the threshold. Oh. So it's complaining because I've added lines and we dropped coverage. All right, so now I have to add tests. That's what it's complaining about. Fine. Clear message providers. Let's see how clear message provider or clear child messages is tested. So we'll start with, it's all new tab hook. So let's see how that works in here. We're going to update new tab hook. Clear message, clear child. Yeah, we're going to have to update this to clear child providers. Before connection, message handler methods are not called. Cert not called clear child providers. After connection, they're forwarded to the handler. Okay. We can do that. Cert called clear child providers. Calls from before connection are dropped. Clear child providers. Snippets. We're going to say cert called once. Yeah. Adding coverage. Only calls from where there is a connection are forward. Snippets. Say foo bar. Disconnect. Foo. Cert called with child providers. Bar. Okay, let's run these tests and see if Istanbul is happy. Oh, you might want to watch this talk from the last Thunderbird Summit. Let's link to this. This sounds interesting. Yeah, we've already been using ESLint and Prettier, and that catches some classes of problems. But I'm going to add this to my to-watch list for sure.
All right, here.
So let's put that in here in our notes. Here, what are we going to do? The Thunderbird team considers using TypeScript. And I'm gonna, what the heck? Come on. Why can't I select this bullet? All right. Interesting happenings. There we go. Hey, Istanbul's happy. That's great. So the other thing I want to test is new tab test all the browser tests. Then the XPC shell tests, and then I'm going to put this up for review. And then I think we're done. I think we figured out, well, we might want a regression test here, actually. I'm trying to figure out how best to do that. You want to make it so that when the pref changes, we say, hey, clear the... Yeah, we're going to want to add some test coverage. Probably to ASRed or test.js. But first, we'll do all this stuff. It feels like so much plumbing, eh? Like that's, to me, that's what this bug felt like. It's plumbing. You know, ultimately, we were able to zone in on the problem pretty quickly that we weren't sending a message. We got confused about what kind of message to send. We weren't sending the right message. But then making it so that we can send that message ended up being like kind of painful. Okay. Let's also test the XPC shell tests. Make sure those work properly. Yep. Okay, and then finally we're going to do the unit tests, which I think I actually have to do again here. I'm not going to do unit. I'm just going to run test. That's what I'll do. npm run test. That tests everything. That like tests the individual components, like the React components of new tab. So it's with using fancy frameworks. And then it's also going to like lint a bunch of stuff, I guess. Compiles everything. It's really heavyweight. Now it runs the unit tests. Meanwhile, we should think about how we're going to write our unit tests. So asrouter test.js is probably it. Preference changes. Should call asrouter preferences init, not a listener. Should call on init. Should send a particular message. Should call on a pref change. Should update group state if a user pref changes. Should update the list of providers on a pref change. Should clear providers if we remove a provider. So here's what we'll do. We'll say, so all those tests pass. That's great. It should clear any providers, clear disabled providers on pref change. Async. So what do? We set message provider pref. I think basically what we're going to do is we're going to disable observe message provider pref name. It's message provider pref name. Yeah. Set message provider pref. How does that work? So stub providers get to a particular value. Okay. To be this array. Yes, router preferences. config get off. How does that work? We get the, yeah, we JSON parse it. Okay. So I think there's going to be like an enabled state. We're going to set its enabled state. Set it to be set message provider pref. How does this work again? I need to look this up again. I am not familiar with this. Such that we have a fake, oh, you provide it with the list, the fake local provider modified. So that's what we want to do. We want to modify we're going to say enabled false. The other thing, oh, this shouldn't be if, this should be it. And then we're going to run just this test. The way you do that, I found out, is to do like describe.only, and that will run just this one test. That's really going to speed up some stuff. We're going to observe that the providers have changed, and then preferences observe. That actually should do the work of preferences dot observe. Isn't there's no observe method here? Observe. There is an observe method here. And that calls the callbacks. That should actually already call what we expect to be called, so I shouldn't have to rerun update message providers. But we are expecting assert called with exactly. AS what would it be, like router dot oh, this is probably an even better way of doing the set state. Enabled true, so stub get user preference. Called with exactly, we're going to say router dot clear child providers, and it's going to be called with the ID some provider ID. I'm just going to check to see if this is going to work. I don't actually know. Provider. Let's see if that works. Scoobity-doo. Hey, waiting for this thing to run. What's some stuff we can do while we wait? Gotta hurry, only 5 minutes left in this stream before I'm gonna wrap. So, oh, it hates it. Why does it hate it? 'Cause linting. What? Replace some provider ID on line 631. Oh. It wants this. That's why, I think. Actually, let's run JS prettier. Yeah, that's what it wanted. And so it like bails out on the entire test if we fail linting. Oh, that's because I'm running npm test mc unit. That's what I want. That's why it was failing. That's why it's taking so long too. So That was my mistake. Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening to Radio M. Conley. Hopefully, we will have ourselves a passing test shortly, and then we will be able to push this up for review. We will see if the folks who manage AS Router are happy with it. Notice that I just failed the test, though. Should clear on pref change. So apparently this function is not stubbed. This router clear child providers is not stubbed. Oh, right. It's because what I want to do is assert that init params clear such and such. This is what I want to do. Clear child providers. I actually don't know. Like the original, I might have to update the state to include const test provider ID some provider ID. And I'm going to say, hey, let's suppose I've got this one provider and this is it. It's got this ID. I'm going to say now we've updated the prefs and I expect that to be called with this. Joy of Coding ASMR edition. Oh yeah, I've got that nice high wide diaphragm condenser microphone voice happening now. Here, I'm gonna drag this Allen key against my pop filter. All you ASMR heads, is this doing it for you? All right. Hates it. Was called 0 times. Okay. Let's try and find out why. So was the, let's see, on pref change. Did we enter here? Entered on pref change. Console.log. Got invalid providers. JSON stringify invalid providers. Console.log. Calling clear child providers. Okay, and now what I'll do is I'll whack this wrench. These pliers. This is pliers, not a wrench, against this Allen key. Maybe that's a really cool ASMR thing. I almost said AS router. ASMR thing. Yeah, all right. Okay. So it does enter, oh boy. And then there's all these Istanbul warnings because it's like, why didn't a bunch of tests run? So it does enter on pref change. We do not enter invalid providers. Got invalid providers. Oh. It does happen. It's just it happens after the fact. Are we not awaiting? Observe. Maybe I do have to run this step. That second one's going to be a no-op, but it will kind of flush the first one out. It's kind of sloppy, but it gets the job done. And ultimately, That's what I care about. Run the test. Expected stub to be called once, but was called 0 times. Calling clear child providers. Got invalid providers, and then it tries calling it. Which does this wait for init func thing. Is initialized calling function. Could be going wrong here. AS router should be initialized. Why aren't we calling our stub? Okay, so it's like calling, get past all this Istanbul garbage. It's initialized, it's calling the function. What is going on here? It's calling the function, or stub function. Calling clear child providers. It's not, it is initialized, so we don't have to do this anymore. Done calling clear child providers. Returns hello? What's going on here, people? So I've modified the stub so that it returns a string. And if what we see returned is a promise, then it means that it's like the wrong stub. Yeah. Done calling it, the return value is a promise. Oh, well, I guess it's because... Here, let's do it this way. Gadoo doo, gadoo doo doo doo. Gadoo doo 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 doo. Aha. So that it liked. So the problem is that, yes, we are calling the stub function. The stub function, wait for initialize, then run this function. Right. So this is the stub function now. No, this is the promise that wraps the stub function. What if we await? Let's just wait a second. It's just that we're too late. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Oh, 2 seconds exceeded. We wait. Sleep. I guess let's like just await some ticks of the event loop. Yeah, that's the problem. We need to wait longer. Because initialization might not be done. Tick. Clock tick. Is that how you do it? Clock tick. I think the dog is... Nope. Never mind. Clock tick. Sleep. Like, how do you wait? It's like... What's the best way to wait for another tick of the event loop? Execute soon. Use fake timers. It's like I need to wait for another tick of the event loop. Like, what does this mean? Use fake clock tick 300. Like, if I do that, what does that mean? Use fake timers. Sign on clock. Sign on, use fake timers. Tick. Tick the clock ahead. No, that's not enough. Sign on event loop. Oh, wait. Oh, wait, hold on. It happens in on pref change. What I really want is to await this. That's probably what I want instead. Oh, there's a little bit of green screen leaking out. How's that? How's that happening? Just like a brightness here. Result is not defined in ASRouter 577. Oh, right, because I whoopsie daisy. On pref change. Yeah. Hold up. Hold up. Hold up. I have a feeling this little splotch here in the corner is due to like sunlight. There's sunlight is leaking through my green screen. I apologize. That's probably my signal to go to end this stream. But really what I'm going to wait for is this test to pass. And that is where I will end the stream. And then, you know, it was a bit of a torturous... Yeah, there we go. A bit of a torturous process. Please ignore all of the Istanbul complaining. That is unrelated. You know, it was a bit of a torture, but I think we got ourselves a test that does what we want, and we have fixed the issue to the point where we have now, you know, fixed the regression. We're back to the original behavior, and ultimately that's what I wanted. Smurf D's like, sunlight? What is this sorcery? Sorcery, S-O-U-R-C-E? Sorcery? Yeah. Heyo. That's just a little joke for you. I think I'm going to call it here. Hey, thank you so much for watching episode 100 and whatever, 231 of The Joy of Coding. I hope that was interesting. We're all over the place, digging deep into the plumbing of ASRouter. I won't lie, it sometimes is very confusing for me, but we got through it together. Thanks for watching. Hey, next week, we'll be back. We'll do another one. Come join me. Who knows what I'll be working on, but maybe we'll fix another bug like this, and maybe we'll write another test. We will see. I hope you all have a great week, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye. See ya.